welcome back to my channel, and today I have 3 super cool DIYs that I think you're gonna love. They are all very aesthetic, okay? Very trendy items, and they've all been inspired by different trends that I've seen on popular websites like Anthropologie, or by items that I've seen on popular home decor Instagram accounts that I really love. So I think we've created some really special things in today's video, and without further ado, let's get into it. I've been seeing antique-y looking mirrors all over the place. They are very popular right now and they look absolutely stunning. I think they're exactly the vibe that everyone is going for right now. But the thing is, they're often very expensive. So I wanted to figure out a way to recreate one of those mirrors on my own and hopefully teach that to you. Now, I actually did figure out a way that is so easy to do, and I'm gonna be using a dollar store mirror tray to do this, but you can definitely recreate this on a larger mirror if you wish, or a different shaped mirror if that's what you're going for. But either way, let's get into it. I'm gonna show you how to make an antique mirror. So when I was at the dollar store, I was looking around and I saw this tray that was a mirror as well, and I decided to pick it up. Now, it has a lot of potential. It's not that cute as is. You can see it a little bit closer. Hey. And I just think it has some really nice details that we can leverage here. So the first thing I did was remove the 4 screws that were obviously there, but then I realized the back wouldn't come off, and it's because those elevated areas were concealing more screws. So there were really so many screws holding this whole thing together. And then to remove all the screws, I actually used this blackhead remover. I was a little bit embarrassed to show this, but I wasn't at home and this is all I could find that would remove those screws. I tried a knife, I tried a fork, I tried so many different things, but this did the trick. I peeked inside and I was actually really hoping to find a hexagon mirror, but instead it's just a rectangle. And the hexagon shape that we see on the outside is just the frame. So I've taken off the frame and I'm just trying to see how easy it is to break off those handles. It wasn't that easy. So I grabbed my wire cutters and I just kind of chopped off of 2 sides of the one handle. I wanted to kind of create some feet and leave the handle on the other side. After that, I grabbed my favorite caulking, which is also paintable, and I also grabbed a little dish with water. Now, this is a little hack when working with caulking that I didn't know before, but the water dish is essential. I cut off the little tip and I started applying the caulking all over the outside of the frame. I didn't apply any caulking at this point to the handle or to the little feet, but I did cover up the little decals on the side just because they weren't elevated enough for the design that I wanted. To spread the caulking out, I just dipped my fingers in the water and started kind of messily spreading it all over. And the water really helps the caulking to not stick too much to your fingers while also allowing you to spread it out really well. I also made sure to add some of the product onto the side of the mirror so that it all seemed super seamless. And as you can see here, you guys, I did end up getting a bunch of that on my fingers. It was a mess, but it washed off right away. After that dried, I went ahead and gave it a nice coat of the spray paint in gold. And let's just appreciate here that I'm outside in the winter in flip-flops, even though there's snow on the ground that you can see in the background. But hey, whatever is needed for the DIY. Now moving on, I wanted to add some more dimension to the gold. So I picked up this acrylic gold paint in Venetian gold, and I'm just kind of adding it on in some of the more textured sections and then wiping off most of it with a paper towel. My goal was for it to kind of darken up the color and make it a little bit more rich and also make it look a little bit more like a real gold mirror. Now, other people I've seen using black paint and dark brown paint to do this. I tried both those things. I really didn't like the result. This is totally, through all the tests I've done so far, the best method. I don't know what made me think of doing this, but hey, it's just layering different colors of gold, especially this one that's more of a rich color of gold. I really loved how it looked, and I actually did tons more of this off camera than what I'm showing on camera. I did it all over the frame, and one little tip that I can give you is to actually leave that dark gold paint on there for a couple seconds before wiping it off, and that kind of helps for it to set in place just ever so slightly before you wipe it off. Now, the last little step we're gonna do here is place the mirror back inside the frame, use the blackhead extractor tool to put back in those screws, and just like that, we have our brand new antique mirror that I think is just absolutely adorable. So this this DIY, I think, hit it out of the park, and there's a few things about it that I specifically really like. One is that we figured out how to get that texture along the edge, and it looks very antique and fits the style very well. I also really like that we figured out how to add more color and dimension to the mirror so that it looks like a true gold mirror as opposed to more flat with the spray paint. That was definitely a learning moment for me through experimentation. And the third thing that I actually really like about this piece specifically is that the mirror that I got had some of those detailings that we could leverage to make it look more antique. So it had that little handle at the top, it had the little feet at the bottom. And if you can't find this exact same mirror tray from the dollar store, or if you actually want to recreate this exact same style but on a larger piece, you can go ahead and buy those accent pieces from Amazon. I've seen them for sale and I'll link some down below. And then you can just attach those on and add the caulking on it and around it and make them all blend. And then you'll have a really cohesive antique mirror that can be larger or a different shape or whatever you're going for. So I really love this DIY and I hope you do as well. And I definitely actually want to try this technique on a larger mirror because I think that would look so cool. Next up, we have a decorative showpiece that I love so much. Now, I have seen this style of piece all over the place on Instagram. I'm not sure where the original version of this is sold. It might be from Target for all I know, but we're in Canada, so I don't know. I haven't seen it listed anywhere. It might be CB2, West Elm, Target, not sure. But either way, we're gonna create a version of our very own that costs under $5 to make, and it's going to be made with none other than these blocks that children play with, that babies play with actually. So I'm very excited for this DIY. I think it is so beyond cool, and yeah, can't wait to show it to you. So I was at the thrift store browsing around, and as usual, I look at the kids section, and this time I saw these wooden blocks. And when I saw them, I knew exactly what I wanted to use them for. I was inspired and I thought these would work perfectly. So I took them on home, I opened up that plastic bag and emptied them on out. And now I'm just pulling out 7 of them, and just because I had to pick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You know, it is what it is. So I'm starting off with the first one, and I'm adding some hot glue. This is hot Gorilla Glue, and I'm adding it to one side, and I'm stacking the second one on there, and then I'm doing the same on the second one and stacking the third one. So just like that, I have 3 in a row. I'm adding some hot glue onto the middle one and adding another block, flipping it upside down, adding some more glue, and adding another block. So you can kind of see the design that I have here, and then to make it really 3-dimensional, I'm adding some more hot glue on the center one and another block. That's my 6th block. And then finally flipping it upside down and doing the same thing on the center. So as you can see, I have this really decorative object. It's kind of like this cube puzzle. It's actually like the puzzle DIY I did in a couple dollar store DIY videos ago. Except way bigger. So I just love it. It's definitely going to end up being a showpiece. Next up, we're going to grab our trusty caulking that we were using earlier, as well as the little dish of water. And we're going to start applying that to the center kind of seams of all the different blocks, and just dabbing our finger in the water to help spread it out. This just basically makes it so that the whole cube is going to look like one cohesive piece, not a bunch of blocks that are attached together. And I also went ahead and added some more caulking on the sides of the blocks that had a little bit of deeper designs in there, just to make it a little bit easier to cover up. Once that's dry, we're gonna go ahead and paint it. And for that, I have my favorite white acrylic paint, as well as my unbleached titanium. And I'm just grabbing a little dish, adding a bunch of white, a little bit of the unbleached titanium, and also adding in a bunch of baking soda to thicken it up. Then I'm going ahead and adding a pretty liberal amount on there, and as you can see, it's covering it pretty well. I did end up putting on 2 coats of this. But here's the thing, I didn't really want this piece to look like paint or that it was painted. I wanted it to look more so like plaster or cement, but you could see the brush strokes there. So to combat that, I thought maybe I'd use this tool I used in my plaster DIY table. Do you remember this clip? This one is like a scraper. I don't even know what this is meant for. Maybe a putty scraper, something like that. this is one of the items that we have to work with. And you know what? That tool that worked perfectly on my table also works perfectly for this one. I'm just basically dragging it along all the edges of the cube, and it's pulling off any of the excess paint. And as you can see, it leaves a really nice textured finish that definitely doesn't look like paint. So I'd say this little technique that we've created here is such a win. I love it so much, and I also love the end result. I'm gonna have to rate this showpiece 10 out of 10. I think it is absolutely phenomenal because it's so easy to make, but it looks so high-end and so cool. I love that we figured out how to create more of that cement or plaster type look by using that scraper spatula item to take off the excess paint. I love the look of it, I love the shape of it, and I can definitely see this styled on a shelf. Now for the price of under $5, it just blows my mind. And you can find those wooden blocks at most thrift stores, and probably buying them outright at a store to work with wouldn't cost very much money either. So there's that option available to you as well. I love how this project turned out, and I cannot wait to take it back home with me because I'm definitely gonna have to style it in my home. Next up, we're gonna be making an embossed trinket tray, okay? Now, I'm not the most experienced person when it comes to clay, and I have definitely never embossed clay. There aren't that many tutorials online for how to do this in the way that I was thinking, but a little bit of trial and error made this work. So I am very excited for it, and you'll never guess what we're using to emboss it. So without further ado, let's get into it. I grabbed some of this Crayola air dried clay, and it was my first time working with it, and it's honestly way better than some of the other air dried clays that I've used. It's super easy to work with, although it has some cons, okay? So I grabbed this big chunk and I started rolling it out on my wax paper, and it literally became so stuck onto my glass. Like, obviously this was a con here. I didn't know what to do exactly. I thought maybe this project was already gonna be a fail. But after a little bit of Google searching, I found that you could actually use some vegetable oil on whatever item it is that you need the clay to not stick to. So I added some olive oil on there, and then I could roll it out really, really easily, and it no longer stuck to my glass at all. And I know that you can also just chill the clay, and that will also help with sticking, but I didn't do that. Instead, I just went with the olive oil method, and you'll see why in a second, why I really needed to do that for another reason. So here comes the embossing technique. For the design, I'm going to be using the bottom of this gigantic plastic punch bowl. I got it from the dollar store. And to make sure that none of the clay sticks in these grooves, I just oiled the grooves of the area we're going to be using. And this is a very important step because I tried it without the oil and it stuck in every single groove. So definitely add that olive oil onto there and you will have much more success. So I just placed down my piece of clay and started rolling it out using my glass, which by the way, I added more oil onto my glass. And I just tried to do this in a pretty even fashion. Now, if you want more defined embossing, I would suggest using a thicker piece of clay because on my second round of doing this, that's what I did and I got even more definition, but this looks pretty good as is. I pulled it off the punch bowl and put it back onto the wax paper, and then I'm just cutting around that kind of circular edge that we got from the bottom of the bowl using a knife. And then I grabbed some water and I just wanted to kind of smooth out some of those lines that we got there. I'm not sure what they came from, but they were there on this version at least. So in case you get those, just use a little bit of water and it'll come right out. And now comes me trying to form this into a bowl. Now I initially tried to put it in this smaller bowl and I got about halfway through to putting it in and I was like, oh my gosh, this is definitely not going to fit in. It's just gonna ruin the whole design. I won't be able to get it out. So I pulled it out of that bowl and I got a much bigger bowl. Now this is obviously gonna have less of a rounded design, but that's okay. It's still gonna look great. So I just kind of placed it in there and got rid of any of the air that was underneath there and pressed it flat against the bowl area. And that is how I left it to dry, and it took about a day and a half to dry. Now I actually played around with the colors a little bit, but I decided to paint this guy black because I thought that would be a really, really nice complement to the embossed design. So I just added some of that into my little dish that I've been using all through the video, and I popped out the dried bowl. It fell right out of the bowl, like with no problem at all. I was worried about that, but it came right out. And I just went ahead and added the black paint onto the bottom of the dish to begin with, and once that was all on, I let it dry. And after it dried, which honestly took like 2 minutes, I went ahead and just flipped it right on over and added a nice coat onto the top of the Trinket tray as well. And I just could tell I loved the way that it looked. I loved the way that the black just kind of enhanced that embossed design. And once all of the black was on there, I decided to add a little bit of gold accent onto the edge. I'm using my gold acrylic paint in Venetian gold and a teeny tiny little paintbrush, and I'm just adding that little rim of gold, which is the perfect little touch. I honestly just love that black and gold combo. It reminds me so much of my old apartment. And the final step here is to seal off the whole little dish using some matte Mod Podge. So just using a paintbrush, I'm adding this on. You can also use a sponge brush. And just like that, you guys, once all the Mod Podge is on there and dried, we have our brand new jewelry dish.
So I just wanted to quickly say that if you're enjoying this video, it would mean so much to me if you do go ahead and subscribe and turn on the bell notification button so you get notified. It would also mean so much to me if you go and check me out over on Instagram. I'm at DIY Dalia with an underscore at the end, and I'm trying to grow over there. You know, as I say, I'm not very good at Instagram, but I'm trying, okay? And yeah, now is the moment of truth, you guys. I wanna know which of the 3 projects is your favorite, or let me know what your ranking is from most favorite to least favorite. And as usual, I am going to share my personal ranking. Now, this is a tough one because I genuinely love all of them. I would rate all of them 10 out of 10 in terms of price, in terms of effort, in terms of aesthetic design. I'm gonna have to say that my top favorite is the antique mirror. I love the concept of it, and I love that it can be used not only for this specific mirror, but for any mirror that you have to create the exact style and piece that you love. I also just love this one specifically with all the details that are there. I think it's adorable. So that one's gonna have to be my top favorite. Next to that will have to be, I'm gonna say the Trinket tray. I really enjoy this Trinket tray. I actually made 2 of them, and I just think it's beautiful. I love that texture that's there. There's different ways that you could customize it. I love the gold accents on the side, and I think it's wonderful. And then that obviously means that coming in third is the decorative object. Now, like I said, 10 out of 10, I still love it. I love it so much. And I'm gonna take all these pieces home with me. I might see if my sister wants one of the Trinket trays, but I love them so much. All these projects I think were wins in my eyes. I love them, and I hope that you do too. Thank you so much for watching until this point. It means so much to me, and it means so much to me that you're supporting my channel, subscribing, liking, all that good stuff. Thank you once again, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.